Hiya folks, it's Dom, and in this video I'm going to show you loads of stuff. So we're going to start by logging on to Moodle and downloading the folder, Artistic License B-Roll, should be called Footage and Documents in capital letters. That download should go into your Downloads folder, and it'll be a zipped folder, so we just need to double click on that to unzip it. And you'll notice inside there we have more footage, B-roll footage, excerpts from the actual short film, and we have a document here as well which contains the title of the program that we're making, the director and the actors, producer, so on and so forth. So these files, we don't want to keep those in our downloads folder, we actually want to move those into our folder structure. So our artistic license folder structure, our master folder should be in edit lesson projects, artistic license, and I'm just going to move the footage into the footage folder. We already have a folder for B-roll here, so I'm just going to select the footage, all of the clips, and drop them into my B-roll folder. I'm also going to take the excerpts folder. I'm just going to move the whole excerpts folder into here. And I'm also going to move the document into my documents folder. That's this one here. Once I've moved all that media from my downloads folder, I can delete, make sure that it's all empty. And I can delete these folders, save space on my computer. Okay, so once I've moved all of the media, we should still have our project file from last week, our artistic license hit film project file. Just going to double click on that to open it up. Okay, once the project has opened up, the next thing we're going to do is organize our media. So I'm going to go back to the organize window, workspaces, organize. Now I can see a lot more information on this panel on the left hand side. So the footage we were working with last week are all interviews. So I want to create a folder just for my interviews. We're going to start adding more media today. We're going to start adding B-roll and we're going to start adding the excerpts as well. So I'm going to create folders for each of these. Keep them nice and neat and organized. So I'm going to click folder down in the bottom left hand corner here. I'm going to rename this folder interviews. And then I'm going to highlight all of these clips, all of the interview clips, just by clicking and dragging a lasso around them all, highlight them all so they all turn this orange color, and then drag them into my interviews folder. Doesn't look like anything's happened, but they are actually in this folder now. You'll notice this little disclosure triangle just to the left of the folder. I can open and close that folder by using that disclosure triangle and see inside. Just going to create another new folder here called B-roll. And then I'm going to click the import button. Now I'm going to navigate my way to the footage. So on my OneDrive, edit lesson projects, artistic license, footage, and there we go. We can see the B-roll folder that we just imported this morning. I'm just going to select that folder, select all of the clips inside it. I'm just going to select the top clip, scroll down to the bottom, hold down Shift and select the bottom clip, and that should select every clip in between. Okay, you can use the Command key to deselect clips or select individual clips like so. Just going to click import now. And there we go. They've automatically, because I had the B-roll folder selected, they've automatically been imported into that folder. I can use the disclosure triangle next to B-roll. And there we go. We can see the two different folders that we have selected here. I'm going to do that one more time. New folder. Call this one excerpts. And then I'm going to click import again. Going to navigate my way to the folder, so OneDrive, edit lesson projects, artistic license, footage, excerpts, and again I'm going to select all of these clips, click the top one, hold down shift, click the bottom one, and that'll select everything in between. Then just going to click open, and there we go, those clips have been imported into the new excerpts folder. Okay, now we're nice and neat and organized. Our next job though is we left our timeline a little messy last week. Our in points and out points when we imported footage onto the timeline probably weren't that accurate. So what I'm going to have to do is tidy up my edit a little bit before I start doing anything else, before I start doing any of the fun stuff, the adding of B-roll over the top of our footage. So I'm just going to go back to Window, Workspaces, and back to the editing layout. Okay, I'm just going to play the first few clips. Spacebar to play.
The cast and crew's been amazing. I'm so lucky. I feel completely blessed.
Okay, so there, the script says, I feel so lucky, I feel completely blessed. That's where we want to cut. We don't want any of that extra footage on the end of Michael saying, I just. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewind. J on the keyboard, spacebar to play.
I feel completely blessed.
Spacebar to pause just after he's finished saying blessed. Now I want to zoom in here. I'm going to do some quite intricate fiddly cutting here. So I'm going to use this little slider down at the bottom left hand corner of the screen to zoom in. Now wherever I've stopped my playhead, that's where I want this clip to finish. I want to delete everything after the playhead. This peak is him saying I just. And that's quite a good way of editing, is to look at the audio waveforms. Whenever you see a peak, that's him saying a word. Whenever you see a trough, no peaks, that is a silent moment. So we want to cut on the silent moment. So there is one way of doing this. You can go to the edge of the clip. See this little green bracket? So I'm on the left hand side of the edit here, which means I'm in charge of this clip. I can click and drag and reduce to the playhead. And there we go. I've made that edit. Let's go back and play that.
I'm so lucky. I feel completely blessed
to have.
Okay, so completely blessed and then cut, which is fine. But what I've done by doing that is left a horrible big gap in here. Now there are a couple of things I could do here. I could right click and go ripple delete gap, and that would move this footage back. But that's a lot more clicks than I want to take. So to show you this again, I'm going to press Command Z just to undo whatever I just did. That's one undo, two undos. What I want to do is edit back to this point, but I don't want to leave that big gap. I actually want to remove this footage and have this footage automatically shuffle back to this point. To do that, I'm going to use a tool. I'm going to use the Ripple Edit tool, which is this one here. Now you'll see when I hover over any of these tools, you'll see what the tool is called, Ripple Edit tool, but you'll also see brackets and a letter. And that letter is a shortcut key. So instead of clicking on this, I could click on this. But if I don't want to click on it, if I want to be a little quicker, work a little quicker, I can use a shortcut key. So that shortcut key is R. R on the keyboard will give us the Ripple Edit tool. Now, the way the Ripple Edit tool works is exactly the same way as I just showed you before. So I'm going to hover on the left-hand side of this edit. So I'm in control of this clip. And I'm going to click and drag back to my playhead, which is stopped just after Michael says blessed. When I let go, instead of leaving that big horrible gap that I then need to right click and ripple delete, it's automatically done a ripple delete. Now ripple delete affects all of the footage after it. It has a ripple effect. So any edits that I make here will affect the rest of the clips. Now that ripple effect has deleted the footage off the end of Michael and shuffled everything back. It's a really quick way of working. Let's have a look at another way of doing that.
completely blessed
To have all these people come together.
So there, Jennifer, for example. In the script it says all these people come together. It doesn't have
To have.
that section there. So again, I'm going to use the Ripple Edit tool. And I'm going to hover on the right hand side of the edit point this time because I want to be in control of editing this clip. So I'm going to hover on the right hand side, see how the green bracket appears. I'm going to click and drag to the playhead, which should remove that audio of Jennifer's that we don't want her saying to have. Let's go back and play that cut.
Completely blessed.
all these people come together and
Fantastic. Let's keep playing.
donate their time, their talent, their craft, and
Nay.
Okay, there we go again. As soon as she says craft, that's where we want to edit. Just by looking at the timeline, I can see that this big peak here is her saying the word craft. Let's test that.
craft.
Perfect. Spacebar just after she's finished saying craft. And again, ripple tool. I'm going to ripple this footage back to this point here. Okay, let's play that.
Their craft.
Nate, Michael, they're very professional.
Okay, so Murphy in the script doesn't say Nate Michael, he just says very professional people to work with. So I'm guessing, look at the peaks here. This is him saying Nate, this is him saying Michael, and this is where he starts saying they're very pleasant people to work with. Let's test that.
Nate, Michael, they're very.
I was wrong. This is where he starts saying they're very.
They're very.
Yeah, so I'm going to pause my playhead just at that start of that peak, and I'm going to use my ripple tool just to ripple this footage back to the playhead. There we go.
Talent, their craft.
They're very professional, very fun people to work with, and
So again, we don't want this and on the end, so I'm going to move my playhead to just after he said with. Very fun people to work with. Pause my playhead there. Ripple tool. Click and drag. Trim the end of the footage off.
to work with.
The AD, I feel like he makes the environment.
So on this one, we've got something different. On this one, my endpoint has been too late when I imported the footage onto the timeline rather than too early. So in this case, I don't want to delete footage. I don't want to trim footage from the start. I want to add footage on. Basically, I want to reclaim footage from the source, from Michael's interview, from up here. If I double click on this clip, I can see the section that I've taken. This is the section that I've taken here.
Carlos, the AD, I feel.
So I actually want Carlos the AD here. So I don't need to re-import this clip onto the timeline if I've missed it. All I need to do is use the ripple tool to ripple back the way to the left, reclaim footage from here. Let's play it and see how I've done.
To work with.
Really do. Carlos, the AD.
I think this is him saying Carlos the AD.
Carlos, the AD.
It is. I'm going to pause my playhead there and just readjust this trim.
Work with.
Carlos, the AD. I feel like he makes the environment safe to work in. I totally feel like I'm dependent on him, but in a great.
Had a whole lot of.
But in a great, so we're missing way from the end of Michael here. So I need to reclaim some footage from the end of here. The way I do that, again, is the ripple tool. Click and drag to the right this time. I'm not trimming footage off. I'm adding footage on.
Dependent on him, but in a great way.
And I'm going to cut before he goes
Dependent on him, but in a great way.
right there. I'm just going to trim this back. There we go.
But in a great way.
Had a whole lot of fun, very easy, relaxed atmosphere, but at the same time, you can see there's a whole lot of production going.
Way.
Okay, so I'm just going to leave that just now. I think you maybe get the idea. That's what you need to do now, is you need to go through your timeline, trim the edits, adjust the edit so that it matches exactly what is said on the script. Okay, so once you've been through your project and you've trimmed the heads and the tails of each of your clips so that it sounds nice, what we want to do now is have a look at inside the clips. So inside the clips, are there any occasions where your interviewee talks rubbish or says or stutters or stammers or anything too much? And what we want to do is we want to get rid of that. An audience doesn't want to sit and watch someone on the screen say or repeat themselves or stutter or stammer. It's your job as the editor to stop people from clicking on another channel on the remote control. And the way you do that is by not boring them, by making them listen to things they don't have to listen to. So let's have a listen to DV.
I've been looking for.
So for a start there, we've got I've been, there's a stutter straight away.
I've been.
Okay, so I'm going to use my ripple tool. I'm going to remove that stutter at the start.
I've been looking for
Much better.
a project to do for a while, and I've wanted to do a comedy. I did a digital feature a couple years ago.
Okay, so there's repetition. I did do a feature. We don't want that repetition. There's also two ums in there as well.
I did a feature. A digital feature a couple.
Okay, so I'm going to get rid of the first one. I did a feature. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to use a razor blade tool to cut out the section that I don't want. The razor blade tool you can find over here, or the shortcut is C on the keyboard. C will select your razor tool. And the razor tool is as simple as going to the location at which you want to make a slice, clicking on the button, and you'll see that's made a slice in the footage.
I did a feature.
I'm going to make a slice at the other end, like so. And then I want to remove this section here. To do that, I need to go back to my arrow tool to select this region. So the arrow tool is either this one here, or as you'll be able to see, is V on the keyboard. V on the keyboard will select your arrow tool. I'm going to select the region that I want to get rid of. And I could tap delete. That'll just remove it and leave a horrible big gap in the middle. I would then need to right click and ripple delete gap. That's more clicks than I want to make. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this region here and then right click on it and go ripple delete object. There we go, that's removed that horrible region that we didn't want. Let's play it now.
Wanted to do a comedy, a digital feature a couple years ago.
Okay, much clearer, much more concise, but we do have a horrible jump cut here now.
Wanted to do a comedy,
A jump cut is where you take a piece of footage, cut a section out as I've just done, and basically it looks like your interviewee is jumping from one place to another. Okay, usually that's the kind of thing that you want to get rid of. I'm going to show you how to do that in a second when we start using B-roll.
a comedy, a digital feature
But it sounds much better.
a couple years ago. That was a very serious film, drama.
Okay, there's more ums and more repetition that we don't need.
That was a very serious
I'm going to razor blade here, C on the keyboard to access my razor blade, slice, spacebar to play.
film, drama.
So I'm going to get rid of film, and just have drama. So I'm going to make a slice here. And then I'm going to use my arrow tool, V on the keyboard, to select my arrow tool. I'm going to select this region, right click on it and go ripple delete object. Okay, let's play that and see how that sounds.
That was a very serious drama. And I decided that my next project that I was going to produce was going to be a comedy.
We
Much better.
spent a long time casting. We were very picky.
Let's go to the next stage where DV appears. Now, I'm going to show you a key on the keyboard now that I use pretty much all the time. Now, it's a key that will jump forward and back to the next or previous edit points. Now, usually on editing software, those keys are the up and down cursors, but on HitFilm Express, it is page up and page down. Page down will take me to the next edit point. Page up will take me to the last edit point. See how my playhead is moving? To the edit point, down to the next edit point, down to the next edit point, so on and so forth. So I've pressed down until I've got to DV. I'm just going to press the space bar again to see what she's saying.
What would be a really funny concept is to do a story about a kid who worked at the DMV, or a guy. I shouldn't even say kid because he's not, but a guy who works at the DMV.
Okay, so all this stuff is just pure nonsense. It's just rabbiting. She's talking about kids and guys, and really the audience doesn't want to hear that. So we're going to remove that.
Funny concept is to do a story about.
So is to do a story about and that's where I'm going to slice. C on the keyboard from our razor blade tool. Make a slice, spacebar to play.
About a kid who worked at the DMV, or a guy. I shouldn't even say kid because he's not, but a guy.
Okay, and a guy. This is where she starts talking sense again. Razor blade tool. Right click on this region here. Ripple delete object.
is to do a story about a guy who works at the DMV.
Okay, so we've got rid of her rabbiting an awful lot, but it doesn't sound very good. So we're going to need to do some trimming and cropping here to make it sound better.
Is to do a story about a guy who works at the
Okay, so I'm going to zoom in because this is going to be fiddly. Zoom in.
do a story about a guy
I think the problem might actually be the loudness of her shouting guy here.
do a story about a guy who
Now what I could do is try and reduce the volume here, but I have a feeling that even if I reduce the volume, it's still going to sound like she's shouting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on this clip. That will open DV up in the viewer here. I'm going to come to the section that's already on the timeline marked by this little orange section here. I'm just going to play this.
guy who works at the DMV and he really loves, I shouldn't even say kid because he's not, but a guy who works at the DMV and he really concept is to do a story about a kid who worked at the DMV, or a guy.
There we go. So she says guy there and she's not shouting this time. So I'm just going to rewind.
Yeah, you made the DMV, or a guy.
I'm going to put an in point at this, just before she says guy, quietly. Spacebar to play.
Or a guy.
Out point just after she said that. So this time, with this quiet guy selected, I'm going to do an insert edit. Okay, I'm going to insert this footage right where the playhead is. If I tap B on the keyboard, it's going to insert this footage starting from the playhead. Let's just see how that works. So B on the keyboard is an insert edit. There we go. So B onto the timeline, and now we have the quiet guy.
Story about a guy who
Okay, great.
story about a guy who works.
And it actually sounds quite good.
Story about a guy who works.
Now we can get rid of this section here. So back to the ripple tool. Ripple, delete. Let's see how this all sounds.
Story about a guy at the DMV and he
Oh, I've deleted too much. If you ever make a mistake, Command Z will undo whatever you just did.
a guy who works.
I think she starts saying who works at the DMV here. So ripple, delete up until the playhead. Let's see how this works.
Story about a guy who works at the DMV and he
Sounds not too bad. I'm quite happy with that.
do a story about a guy who works at the DMV and he really loves his job and he wants to take a picture. Every picture that he wants to take is going to be beautiful no matter what.
He's extremely passionate. He's
Okay, so if you want to go back to your edit and see if you can remove any or repetition or any useless information that the audience is not going to appreciate you showing. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start wallpapering our interviews with B-roll. If you notice on the timeline, we have some horrible jump cuts now, especially over DV.
Wanted to do a comedy, a digital feature a couple years ago that was a very serious drama.
Okay, so we have these horrible jump cuts. And what we're going to do is we're going to treat them like cracks in a wall. If you have cracks in your wall, what do? You cover them up with wallpaper. So that's what we're going to use our B-roll for. We're going to use it to cover these sections up. So I'm going to come up to my B-roll folder. And we've got lots and lots of B-roll in here. You'll see the B-roll is all named appropriately. So when someone mentions Seamus's name, we know we can use a shot of Seamus. There's Michael, there's Carlos, the AD, there's Nate, we've got a giggling gaffer. So the clips are all named appropriately. Should make it easier for you to find exactly what you're looking for. I'm just going to show you a couple of examples here. I'm expecting you to spend a little more time selecting appropriate clips and putting them in sensible locations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to listen to what DV's saying here.
For a while, and I've wanted to do a comedy, a digital feature a couple years ago.
Okay, so really it's DV talking. I'm just going to see if I can find some shots of DV doing something or other. Let's have a look. There's DV, for example. DV talking away to Michael. There's a good shot of those two chatting away. So I'm going to put an in point here. I on the keyboard. Spacebar to play.
Carlos, ready to go.
Starts walking away. That looks good. Out point there. I'm just going to click and drag this footage and drop it onto video 2. Okay, so that's video 2. Video 1's got all the interviews on it. I'm just going to populate video 2 with all of the B-roll. And you'll notice here, this slice here is one of my horrible jump cuts. I've covered that over, wallpapered it over with some B-roll. Let's go back and play that. So whatever's on video 2 will appear above, on top of DV. It will cover it up. Let's play that and see how it looks.
To do for a while, and I've wanted to do a comedy. I did do a feature a couple of years ago that was a very serious drama.
Okay, and there's another jump cut there, so I need to find some more footage of DV. How about this one here, DV laughing with David. Single click to open it up in the viewer. Endpoint. Out point. Click and drag and just drop it onto the timeline like so. You can see that's covering up this jump cut here. Let's play that.
To do for a while, and I've wanted to do a comedy. I did do a feature a couple of years ago that was a very serious drama. And
Okay, so the footage works okay, but you'll notice that the thing that's destroying it is the audio. So I've brought this footage in, but it's also brought the audio track in. And we've got that background sound from this footage playing over the top of our interview. We can hardly hear what the interviewee is saying. So what I can do here is I could either delete these audio regions. I'm not a fan of doing that. The reason for that is I don't know now whether I want to use this audio or not in future. My way of thinking is it's better to have it there and not need it than to need it and not have it. So I'm going to leave that on the timeline. I'm not going to delete it. What I will do though is mute it. So this line that runs through the center of any audio region is your volume, is the gain. So I'm just going to click and drag the volume for this clip all the way down and the audio for this clip all the way down. And now when I play it, I should just be able to hear the interview and none of the B-roll audio. Let's play that.
to do for a while, and I've wanted to do a comedy. I did do a feature a couple years ago that was a very serious drama, and I decided that my next project that I was going to produce was going to be a comedy.
We'd spent a long time casting. We were very picky.
Okay, so I'm just going to go through my timeline, select appropriate pieces of B-roll and drop them onto video 2. And really, I want to use B-roll over most of this. Talking heads are fine, but no one wants to watch a whole program full of talking heads. We want some more visual stimulation. So we're going to do that by adding B-roll. One thing I will say about adding B-roll is, at this moment in time, don't add B-roll to the first 3 or 4 seconds the first time you see someone. So if this is the first time we see Michael,
The casting crew's been amazing.
don't add any B-roll until he's spoken for 3 or 4 seconds. The reason for that is we want to hear the interviewee talking, and we want to see their face as well. We want to be able to put a face to the voice. The other reason is, what I'm going to show you in a few seconds, is adding something called a lower third to the screen as well. A little piece of text down in the bottom corner of the screen, in the lower third of the screen, which will tell us who this is and what the person's job role is. It's called a lower third because it appears in the lower third of the screen. So the first time you see Michael, no footage for 3 or 4 seconds. First time we see Jennifer, no footage for 3 or 4 seconds. First time we see Murphy, again. Second time we see Michael, we can plaster him with as much B-roll as we want. We've already seen his face, we already know what his voice is like, and we already know his name because we've seen the lower third on the very first clip. I'm just going to head forward to David, I think.
He's extremely passionate. He's kind of eccentric, kind of out there. He's not kooky or crazy. It's just that he's got so much going on.
He's got so much going on. Now, this is a good point to give the audience a bit of a break. Up until now, we've got wall-to-wall interviews. Interview, and we're not really giving the audience a breather at any point in time. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come back up to my footage. I'm going to select my excerpts folder, and I'm going to select this clip here. Now, this is an excerpt from the actual short film. So I'm going to take this piece of footage here.
Dear chum.
When he slaps his leg there, I'm going to put an in point there. Spacebar to play.
Are you fully able to appreciate the luminance of life?
All I see is a wall. But you're the genius.
Spacebar. Out point. Now this time I'm going to drop this onto the timeline, but I'm going to use insert edit, B on the keyboard. I'm going to insert this footage in between these two clips. It's like wedging it wherever the playhead is. So B on the keyboard wedges that footage in, and there we have a little break, a little breather for the audience.
So much going on.
Are you fully able to appreciate the luminance of life?
But we only join the conversation halfway through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the edit point by pressing page up, and then I'm going to come back to my B-roll footage, and I'm going to find this clip here. This is the behind the scenes camera shooting this scene here. I'm just going to open this up, play it from the start.
David, is a window really going to make that much of a difference?
Only when you let the light in, my dear chum.
Okay, and there's his hand slapping his leg. I'm using that kind of like a clapperboard moment. So clapperboard is how you synchronize audio to video. This is how I'm going to synchronize one clip to the other. So my end point on this clip was him slapping his leg. My out point on this clip is going to be him slapping his leg. So out point here, I'm going to bring the playhead back to around here and put an in point in. Same again, I'm just going to use the B key to insert this footage onto the timeline, right where the playhead is. B on the keyboard, and let's play that and see how that looks.
Got so much going on.
Only when you let the light in, my dear chum, are you fully able to appreciate the luminance of life.
All I see is a wall. But you're the genius.
Okay, so this is what's called a match cut. Basically, I'm matching the action from one shot to another shot, and I'm using that hand slapping the leg to synchronize one to the other.
My dear chum, are you fully able to...
So there's a little bit of an issue here. The issue is that we go from the crappy onboard camera microphone,
my dear chum, are you...
to the good quality audio, probably taken from a boom, taken from this boom above their head. So the chopping between the footage works quite well because I'm cutting on action, but the cutting of the audio doesn't work so well. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to detach the audio from the video on this first clip with the rubbish audio by going to unlink, and then I'm going to click anywhere off the timeline, and then I can select this audio individually and just press backspace to delete it. What I can do now is unlink this audio from this video, and I can ripple this audio back this way. And what should happen is we have this audio, the good audio, taken from this boom microphone on this shot, running over the top of both of these clips. Let's see if it works.
He's got so much going on.
Only when you let the light in, my dear chum, are you fully able to appreciate the luminance of life.
All I see is a wall. But you're the genius.
Okay, I think that works really well. One last little trick I'm going to do here is I'm going to use video 2. So I'm going to take these two clips, video clips, drop them onto video 2. I'm going to extend this video out a little bit over here. So I've got some footage playing over the top of David speaking.
He's not kooky or crazy, it's just that he's got so much going on.
Only when you let the light in, my dear chum, are you fully able to appreciate the luminance of life.
All I see is a wall. But you're the genius.
His obstacle.
I could even do the same on the other side. Roll some of this footage out this way.
But you're the genius.
His obstacle at work is his boss, Bianca.
Bianca is a very...
Okay, so I'm going to let you go back to your computers and have a shot at overlaying some B-roll onto video 2. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some text to the screen. Now, the first thing I want to show you when we're doing titles is something called Title Safe. Title Safe is an area within the screen that you must place your text. text must be within a certain area on the screen or it's not broadcast legal. If you send a station copy off to a television station and you have text outside of their title safe zones, then they will not be able to broadcast it. They'll send your station copy back to you and they won't show it on television. So we must have our text inside this thing called title safe. Now, because we're using HitFilm Express, it doesn't have a lot of pro functions that other applications do. If I just show you Final Cut Pro, for example, if we have a look up here under View, Show Title and Action Safe Zones, this inner yellow line is title safe. So any text that I put on the screen, any lower thirds or any titles need to be inside this, need to be completely inside this. Any action you want to be seen on the screen needs to be inside this outer yellow line. But as I say, if we are working on HitFilm Express and we don't have title safe zones, we're going to have to create our own ones. Now, I was hoping not to do this so early in the course, get you into effects and stuff like that, but hey, let's just do it anyway. So the way I'm going to add a title safe zone is I'm going to add a composite shot. I'm just going to reduce this window, reduce my B-roll. I'm going to add composite shot. Okay, it's going to come up here and ask what width, what height, what frame rate. It's automatically going to select the same width, height and frame rate as my video, as my timeline down here, which is great. But I'm going to retitle this, title safe. And I'm also going to make it longer as well. I'm going to make it 3 minutes long, or 3 minutes 30 should do it. So 3 minutes 30 long, and I'm going to click OK. Once I've done that, it's going to open up a composite window, a new timeline for me to start creating my composite on it. I don't want to do anything in here. We'll come to that later down the line. So I'm going to go back to this tab here. This is my editor. This is my timeline with my footage on it. I'm just going to take that composite shot and I'm going to drop it onto video 3, like so. Now you'll be able to see title safe runs throughout my whole program and beyond. So what I'm going to do with this now is I'm going to add an effect. Okay, now this effects tab is open here, ready for me to start adding effects. I'm just going to do a search for grid, G-R-I-D, press return, and there we go, grid. Now with this title safe layer selected, highlighted orange, I'm just going to double click on this grid effect, and that will apply the effect to this layer, just to video 3. If I click this little eye on video 3, it will mute that layer, make it invisible. If I click the eye, it will open it back up again and we'll be able to see the effect again. Now at the moment the grid doesn't look great. I'm not going to be able to use that at all, so I'm going to make some adjustments to it. Now the adjustments I can make in this window up here, this one titled controls. And what I want to do first of all is probably my border radius. I'm just going to change, that's the width of these lines here. I'm just going to change that to 1. So if I just click on this number, type 1 and then press return, that's looking a lot better, thinner lines. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to change the points. At the moment this is just a random grid. I'm not going to be able to work with that. I'm just going to use these little disclosure triangles next to point 1 and point 2, and I'm going to change these position numbers. So in position 1, I'm going to change the digit on the left hand side to -193, press return. I'm going to change the second digit on the right hand side to -145. Okay, that's looking a lot better. That's my title safe for this bottom corner. Now, point 2, I'm going to change to the opposite of these. So not minus, but normal, 193, return. And this, the opposite, instead of -145, just 145, and press return. There we go. It's that easy to create your own title safe zones just using a grid. So now any text we're going to put on the screen we know needs to be above this line here and to the right of this line here. So now that I've done that, I'm going to come back to my media. Over the top of Michael at the start of the timeline, I'm going to click on the text tool, this one here, and then I'm just going to click on the screen where I want to start typing. So just click here and you'll see that text automatically goes on to video 2, like so. So I'm just going to type Michael, and this is actually where the document that we put in our folder earlier on is going to come in handy. I'm just going to open that up. Drop this on the right hand side of the screen. And now I know what to type here. Michael Wall, director. Okay, so the text looks crazy at the moment. Now, the reason it looks so horrible and pixelated is because our footage, our timeline is tiny as well. So the screen we're working with is very low resolution. So if we see the size of the title is 480 by 360, absolutely nowhere near high definition. That's why it's so pixelated. So don't worry about this too much just now. When we start working with 1080p footage, our text will look a lot cleaner and yeah, not as low res as this. So now that I have this text on the screen, it looks rubbish. So I'm going to have to make a few changes. I'm just going to adjust the sizes of these things. So I can highlight my text the same way as you would in Microsoft Word, and we have the controls over all the text down here. I might actually change my font from Arial to American Typewriter. Looks good. I'm just going to reduce the size. Now I can do that by either clicking and dragging in this area. It's looking quite good there. I can change the position of this now by using the arrow tool. Just going to change the size of the text on the bottom. I'm going to change the color of the text on the bottom. Let's go for a red color, I think. Just going to select the text on the top. Change that to a yellow color, I think. And I might make the top text bold. Okay, that's looking okay. Let's go back to the timeline and play it now.
The cast and crew's been amazing. I'm so lucky. I feel completely blessed.
All these
So usually the rule with text is if you as the editor can read it 3 times, that's how long it should remain on the screen. So let's go back and test that. Michael Wall, director, Michael Wall, director, Michael, director. Okay, so what I could do is shorten this text down to where the playhead is here. That should be on the screen for long enough for the audience to read it. So what I need to do now is I need to put lower thirds on everyone else as well. Jennifer Eccles appears next, for example. So what I'm going to do is copy this title. I'm going to select copy. I'm going to move my playhead forward to the edit point, and then I'm going to right click and press paste here. There we go. I'm just going to move this back to here. So now I've got Michael Wall, director here, and I've got Michael Wall, director here. But all I need to do now is change the text. I don't need to change the color, I don't need to change the font, I don't need to change the position. I've basically created a text template that I can use over and over again on the timeline. So to change this, I'm just going to double click on it, select the text tool, and there we go. Double click on the timeline. I've got 2 lower thirds.
all these people come together and don't.
Okay, so now you can go back to your timeline and you can put lower thirds on each of these characters. Remember the first time you see them. And the rule is if you can read it 3 times, that's how long it will take the audience to read it once. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I want to pop some music onto my timeline. So where am I going to get some music from? I'm going to go to my favorite location, which is the YouTube Audio Library. So I'm going to click on Google Chrome, and then I'm going to do a search for YouTube Audio Library. This is the one that we want here, YouTube Audio Library. Basically, when YouTube first came out, everyone was putting copyright music on their tracks, and YouTube got in a bit of bother about it. So what happened after that is they started allowing people to upload their own music to be used on YouTube videos. Basically, these artists, they all want to get noticed, they all want to get recognized. The way they do that is by creating free music for people to use on their YouTube videos. Yeah, so it works out quite well for everyone. There's some really, really good stuff on it. There's some really, really bad stuff on it, as you can imagine. And sometimes it takes 2 seconds to find the thing you want, and sometimes it takes days and days. Yeah, but to help you find the thing that you want, we have filters. So I'm going to go for a mood, I think. And I want quite happy music. And apply. That'll apply that filter. Now on these ones you can see we've got a play button, a download button, and once you start playing it you're able to see transport controls down here, so you can zip forward or backwards in the song. So basically what I'm looking for is something that's happy. I probably don't want any pop music because it might sound like this. Probably don't want any drunken countless dance electronic music. Sounds a bit Daft Punky, not really in keeping with the rest of the program, I don't think. This is something I might look for, something from a children's program. Let's play this one. Love it. Okay, so you probably want to listen to a wee bit more of the track before you decide, but yeah, I'm in a rush, I don't want to bore you. So I'm going to click on download this one here. That will automatically go into my downloads folder. I'm just going to hide Google Chrome just now. Open up my downloads folder, and there we go, we've got Happy Mistake. This is the song here. Just going to play that to make sure it's the right one. It is, and I'm going to drop that into my audio folder now. So I'm going to go to my OneDrive, Edit Lesson Projects, Artistic License, Master folder, and I'm going to keep it in my nice neat and tidy folder structure. I'm going to keep that in audio, and I also already have a folder here called Music, in which I can drop this music file. Okay, once I've done that, I can come back to my project. I can go to import, and I know exactly what I'm going to import. I've just put it there, so it's in OneDrive, Edit Lesson Projects, Artistic License, Audio, Music, and it's this one here. I'm just going to click open to upload that, import it. There we go, so we have an audio track. Now, I'm already pretty confident that this is going to be good, so I'm just going to go ahead and drop it into the timeline. Before I do that, I can see that Audio 3 has got Title Safe on it at the moment. This is the audio associated with the Title Safe that we used. Once you're finished with Title Safe, you can either delete it or you can mute it by pressing the little eyeball. I'm just going to leave it on the timeline. I'd rather have things and not need it than to need things and not have it. But what I will do is right click on it and go to unlink, and that will allow me to delete this nothing from Audio 3. What I can do now is I can grab this audio track, my music track, and drop it onto Audio 3 where that Title Safe blank audio was. Let's go back to the start of the timeline and try playing this.
The casting here has been amazing. I'm so lucky. I feel completely blessed.
All these people come together and donate their time.
Okay, sounds pretty good. But the audio is too loud, music's too loud. So what I'm going to do is, usually I would put a title on before this. If you guys have got time, feel free to pop a title in the start of your timeline. What I will need to do though is I'll need to move all of this footage along in the timeline. So if I just play this and see how much of an intro I want from the music.
The casting here has been amazing. I'm so lucky. I feel completely blessed.
All these people come together and donate their...
I'd say around there. Then I want my title to finish and Michael to start talking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my arrow tool to select all of this media apart from the music, and I'm going to move the whole lot along to where the playhead is. Okay, the playhead is where I want my title to finish and Michael to start talking. Here we go. So imagine a title here. Artistic license, behind the scenes.
The casting.
And then Michael starts talking, but the audio is far too loud. So remember this volume line here, we need to do something to this volume line to allow us to hear the interview. So I'm just going to zoom in on the timeline, and what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to fade this music down the way. Now the way I'm going to do that is by holding down the control key on the keyboard, or the command key if you're on a Mac. You'll notice what happens to my cursor when I do that. It changes from this up and down arrow to a kind of crosshair, a plus crosshair. What that'll allow me to do is to click on this volume line and create what's called a keyframe. That's basically saying be this volume be this level up until this point. I'm going to put a keyframe there. I'm going to put a keyframe just after Michael starts talking, this peak here, round about here. I'm going to drag the volume line on the right hand side of my second keyframe down the way, and you'll see what's happening. So the volume is this low all the way along there, this high up here, but between those two it's fading down the way. It's turning the volume down basically. Now I'm guessing this just now. Let's play it. The only way I'll know is by playing it. Okay, so my fade starts too early. Need to zoom in even further. So I want my fade to start around here and finish around here. Let's play that and see how that works.
The cast and crew.
Still too drastic. I don't want the volume to go that low.
The cast and crew's been amazing. The cast and crew's been amazing. I'm so lucky. I feel completely blessed.
I think one of the problems is Michael isn't loud enough. So why don't we do that before we do anything? I'm just going to mute this audio here by clicking on the little speaker, and then I'm going to come back to Michael.
The cast and crew's been amazing.
Yeah, Michael's too quiet. So if we have a look at Jennifer's audio,
all these people come together and donate.
Notice how Jennifer, when she's speaking, the audio levels are averaging around minus 12 dB.
Time, their talent, their craft.
They're very professional, very fun people to work with.
And Murphy's averaging around minus 12 dB. He's not going into zero because that'll be too loud. That'll clip the audio. But it's averaging around this area here. Michael's nowhere near that. So what I need to do is I need to adjust his audio, turn his volume up so he's averaging around minus 12.
It's been amazing. I'm so lucky. I feel completely blessed.
A wee bit more, I think. Round about there.
Cast and crew's been amazing.
It's too much.
I'm so lucky. I feel completely blessed. Cast and crew's been.
So see how it goes into the red there? We don't want that. So I'm going to reduce this a little bit.
The cast and crew's been amazing. I'm so lucky. I feel completely
and averaging
blessed.
around minus
all
12.
These people
That's
come
great.
Together and donate their time.
Jennifer averaging
talent,
around minus
their
12.
craft.
Fantastic.
They're very professional, very fun people to work with.
And Murphy.
Carlos, the AD.
Need to turn Michael up a little bit.
I feel like he makes the environment safe to
A wee bit more.
work in. I totally feel like I'm dependent on him, but in a great way.
Had a whole lot of fun, very easy, relaxed atmosphere, but at the same time,
Okay, so if you go through your whole timeline, making sure that all your audio averages are around minus 12 dB, then we can go back and turn the music back on. I should have really done that before I added the music in.
The cast and crew's been amazing. I'm so lucky. I feel completely blessed.
All these people come together and donate their time, their talent, their craft.
they're very professional, very fun people to work with.
Carlos, the AD. I feel like.
Okay, you get the idea. We could raise the audio at the end. So after Jennifer finishes her line,
We're just all working because we like to work.
okay, and same again, hold down Control on the keyboard or Command if you're on a Mac. And I'm just going to fade the audio up here.
Because we like to work. Because we like to work.
Roll credits. And if you want to try creating your own credits, feel free to do so. Okay, I think I've talked more than enough for today. I'm going to leave you guys to get on with editing. One last thing I want to show you is exporting your video. So when we're finished editing it together, we've done all our titles and credits, and we've done all of our lower thirds, we've added music and changed the audio levels, added your B-roll, all the stuff we've done in today's lesson. It's time to export your video. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to come up to File, and we're going to go to Options, and then we're going to go to Export. Now, default export directory at the moment is set as users Dominic Phillips desktop HitFilm Express exports. I'm actually quite happy with that as long as it goes to the desktop, so I'm just going to select that, desktop HitFilm Express exports, and click open. Okay, so exporting to the desktop is fine for me. Once it's exported to the desktop, I can move it to the appropriate folder on my OneDrive. So I'm going to select OK. I'm going to select the area that I want to export. So on the timeline, I'm going to put an I endpoint at the start of my timeline. And at the end of my video, I'm going to put an O on the keyboard. Endpoint, out point. Now before I export this, I'm going to select a preset. So I'm going to come up to the export window here. And I don't want a 1080p video, that's a bit overkill, but I do want to use probably a Facebook 720p HD video. So now I'm going to go to export on the right hand side here, click this little arrow pointing to the right. I'm going to go to export now, into out area, and it's going to ask me what preset I want to use. Now I want to use this preset here, Facebook 720p HD. The good thing about this is it's going to export an MP4 at 720p and at H.264 codec. Now you can see it's already exporting that as we go. Okay, now that that's finished exporting, I'm just going to hide this window here. There's my HitFilm Express folder, and this is what's inside it, HitFilm Express exports. There we go, editor. So I should have really named that appropriately before I exported it. There's a guide on Moodle as to what you should name this. So I'm going to drop that into my exports folder. So OneDrive, edit lesson projects, artistic license, exports, drop that on here. And I'm just going to rename it. Okay, and that's my video exported. It has a name, has the UID, it's an MP4 file, it's 720p, and it's small enough file size. I can then upload that to Moodle to be marked. And that's it, that's everything I wanted to show you in this video today. Thanks very much for watching. If you have any questions, please ask them on the forum on Moodle, and I shall see you all in class.